they are here because they see that we are on the verge of a great shift of consciousness. So we are on the verge of starting to realize who we really are, that we are multidimensional beings. I do definitely believe that we live on multiple timelines right now. We are multidimensional beings. And they actually demonstrated this for me and through me, actually. So, in several ways. So, the main way you can discern is that, is it fear-based? If it's fear-based, it's control. If it's not fear-based, it's our star family. So, hello everybody. I am Ragnhild from Norway, and I have been a spiritual teacher for quite some years now. And in 2014, I had a very special experience that started in my life. I was contacted by extraordinary consciousness, I will say. Galactic consciousness reached out to me through technology and also through telekinesis and telepathy and so forth. So I am working very closely with a group of star beings, and I am holding a lot of courses, workshops, and retreats, mainly in Norway, but also in Europe. So my journey in spirituality started already as a child. As a child, I had a lot of very vivid dreams about spaceships appearing in my dreams. And uh, even though I was a small child, I just knew that it was my family and my friends and that I would have something to do with them someday. But when I grew older and started to get into my teenage, the dreams disappeared and I kind of forgot about it. But in my early 20s, I started to have a very conscious spiritual experiences, and I started to take a lot of classes, spiritual classes, and I was very much into astrology and tarot and those kind of things. But I also started to have more energetic experiences with other dimensions, I will say, because I am also a psychic. I discovered that I was a psychic when I was 18 years old. And through the years, I had I had this longing for something. I knew that I would work with something that had something to do with seven, and I didn't know what it was. I knew that I would teach people in spirituality, but I didn't really know what and how. And in 2014, I had this really strange experience with one of the girls that I was in charge of at my workplace. I was working at the gym, and one day I started to receive empty SMSs from her, text messages on my phone. The first time I thought that she just had, sent them by accident. But the weird thing was that nothing was registered in her log. You couldn't see anything in her log, but I got it. And then things started to become even more weird because this happened every Monday at the same time. It was 21:17 in the evening. And the two first Mondays, it was 5. And the third Monday, it was 7 empty text messages. And nothing was registered in her log. And then they started to call from her phone to mine. And the first time it called when her phone was completely dead, it was out of battery. We were in the same room, we were practicing yoga. And all of a sudden, everything was, her phone was flat of battery. And she had the newest version of iPhone. And I didn't have that version, so I couldn't help her with the charger. So she just had to leave it, and it was several meters away from us. And all of a sudden, it started to ring. It called me from her phone. And she was sitting next to me, several meters away from it. And we were just screaming and really not understanding what was going on. And I didn't even think about answering the call. So a message came into my voicemail, and there we could clearly hear this really high frequent sound with our voices in the background. And that was the first time they called. And then it started to call almost every day. And I started to receive text messages with one word. And then it became sentences. So a connection started to progress. And after 2 months, we were able to have a dialogue. So then they called me, and I could ask them over the phone, and they answered on text messages. So we developed a very tangible contact, a very concrete contact, and with star beings. And they moved a lot of things. They started to create geometrical patterns on my floor. Um, they started to give messages telepathically, and they started to give me messages about this girl that Sarah is her name, that they always reached to me through her phone and always called me through her phone. And they said that she was the soul that I aborted when I was 24 years old. And it was such a strong experience. And they wanted us to come back together because they said that we had a mission together. And that also involved my two biological daughters. So this was a very mind-stretching experience that started in August 2018, and it's no 14, and it lasted every day for 3 years. Every day for 3 years, they call me, they text me, they create all these patterns on the floor. They give a lot of messages around um, uh, our journey here on Earth and the great consciousness, the shift of consciousness that we live in these days. So, and they start to teach me about something they call the seven portals, 7 layers of consciousness that they claim that we are going through in order to make the great shift of consciousness. So for 3 years, I had these experiences every day. And the next 3 years, the contact was a little bit slower or not that frequent, but it was a very strong telepathic contact. And now for the last 6 years, it is everyday contact telepathically, but they don't reach that much through the technology anymore. It's mainly when I'm holding groups or retreats. And like now, I just came back from the pyramids of Bosnia. And there they appeared on the sky. They showed themselves as a white light that was moving in a very pulsating way. So sometimes they come into the field and then show themselves, or they just come in and they move things. And they love technology. They love to play with computers. They love to play music. They love to play with our phones. And so that's in a very short version, a little bit about my life and my contact. So in regard disclosure, and to discern what is true and what is not. My main message there is we have to listen to ourselves firstly. And it might be that somebody will try to fake a disclosure. I don't know, but it's definitely going to be disclosure. And more people are coming forth these days and sharing their experiences with galactic consciousness. And more and more people, and also from the great institutes like the Army and so forth, and NASA and so forth, more and more people will come forward and share their experiences. And the main way you can discern is that, is it fear-based? If it's fear-based, it's control. If it's not fear-based, it's our star family. Because our star family do not operate from fear. That belongs to this planet and to this kind of consciousness that are in 3D. So if any disclosure stories are very fear-based, then you know that's somebody that's from the control, from the manipulation. I do definitely believe that we live on multiple timelines right now. We are multidimensional beings. And they actually demonstrated this for me and through me, actually. So, in several ways. So, I would love to give you some examples. For instance, they took me to a dimension where I met myself as a star being somewhere else. So, I was meeting myself. So then I asked them, but that's me. And they say, yeah, you exist on several dimensions at the same time and in several star systems at the same time. But they also came in and demonstrated how we can live on different timelines here. And I experienced it for 3 years with Sarah, this girl that I was her boss at the gym. And that's the girl that, I received all these messages and calls through her phones, but it was never registered in her log. And and that they claimed that was the soul that I aborted when I was 24 years old. What happened was that for 3 years, we lived on two timelines here on this planet. And what happened was that for approximately 22 hours in a day, I was me on this timeline and Sarah was her on her timeline. But for 2 hours, I was her mother and she was my child. From she was 3 years old till she was 18 years old. So we got to experience how the mother and daughter relationship would have been if I had chosen a different timeline. So if I had chosen to not have that abortion when I was 24 years old, I would have that child. And I experienced that child, and she experienced me as a mother. So that was a really mind-blowing experience, and that lasted for 3 years. And that child, and at the same time, they demonstrated through that child our abilities, because that child was 100% psychic, and she could do miracles. I saw her heal people. She healed one of my friends who has had a weakened thyroid, and she was moving things. She could move crystals. She could move things, and she was putting crystals inside of my body and taking them out again. And she did, mind-blowing things. And I have always believed that we can do anything, but I had never seen it with my own physical eyes. But with her, I saw it with my own eyes, and she could explain how she did it. I remember I asked her, so what are you doing? How can you move things? And she said, She told me when she was that child, she said, Mommy, you just have to hold, she was holding a crystal, and you just have to watch it, and then you have to become it. And when you become it, you can move it, she said. And that was so fascinating. So we are able to live on different timelines here on Earth. And at the same time, we exist on different levels. And they also say, like the term past lives, the past lives we have had here on Earth. They say it's not really past lives, it's parallel lives. So it's like they are happening simultaneously, not because the linear time is an illusion, they say. Time is moving in spirals and circles. It's not moving in a line. And they also say that what is going to happen, and they have demonstrated it with me, and uh, actually in several of my courses and retreats that I've held, really weird thing has happened where they have demonstrated that we are now on a frequency where we start to bend time and space without understanding that we are actually doing it. So weird things starts to happen with time, and weird things are starting to happen with space, because we are going to slowly dissolve the linear time, and we are going to slowly dissolve the concept of space, and tap more and more into the multidimensional aspect of us, where we know and remember and experience that we exist multiple places at the same time. But it has to go slowly, so we keep our mind, so we don't go crazy. Yeah. So their main message is that they would love to support us in our journey on coming back home to ourselves. So they say that they are not here to save us. They are here to support us if we want to have some help, if we allow them to. So they are like our family, they say, and they are here because they see that we are on the verge of a great shift of consciousness. So we are on the verge of starting to realize who we really are, that we are multidimensional beings coexisting with a lot of different dimensions and a lot of wonderful forms of consciousness that are very different from us, that are not in physical form, but they are here. And their message is that they want us to come back to our own energy and to start to trust ourselves again, and to believe in our own potential and in our own power and our own inner authority. Because in the world that we are living right now, we have this top-down power structure. And in this top-down power structure, we as human beings has given away our power. We are living from the outside in. And they say that the huge shift of consciousness is when we start to move from within and out. And we come back to listening to our hearts, listening to our intuition, and stop listening to everything that is outside of ourselves. Because if we only listen to what's outside of ourselves, we lose faith in ourselves, and we lose our own connection with everything and the great consciousness. So they see that the humanity is a little bit lost And that we now it's time for humanity to awaken. And they say that all the chaos that we see in the world today is a huge part of the next step, because what we see happening out in the world today is starting to wake up people in the way that people are realizing that we have to make changes, because the way that we are taking care of the world today is not the best way. It is another way to go. It's a better way. It's a better choice. And that's what they would love to help us to see. And they are also talking a lot about fear. They are talking about that here in the third dimension, uh, in this physical realm, the human being have a lot of fear. Uh, we are living from a fear consciousness, and that they say that we have to go through the threshold of fear. We have to release the fear and stop being so afraid of everything that we don't understand. I've experienced close encounter 2 times the last year, and every time I was traveling with a group of people, they were with me on a retreat. And both times we were by the pyramids in Bosnia. And the first time we were at the Moon Pyramid. The second time we were at the Pyramid of Love and the Sun Pyramid. And then I asked them, how is it that we experience you now and others don't? And they say that it depends on the frequency that we hold. So we were a group of people of approximately 20 people, and we held a frequency together that allowed them to enter our field in such a way that we could see them with our physical eyes. Um, when people have a lot of fear, it will be hard for them to come into our field. So, in order to experience them, we need to go into our heart and enter the essence of our souls, which is light and which is love. And when we tune into that frequency, it will be so much easier to have the close encounter on a global level. Right now, it's still a lot of fear. So it's still a lot of people who don't have a nervous system that can handle close encounter, because you have to have a quite robust and quite stable nervous system to be able to have a close encounter. And I experienced 2 times in the first few months when they reached out, and there was all this activity when they were sending SMSs, when they were calling, and they were moving things in my home, and they were doing a lot of telekinesis and a lot of things happening. My husband, he got really scared because he couldn't understand it. And one of my friends, she found it very exciting, found it very exciting. But when she started to really experience them closely, like they can come and touch you, she got scared. And that doesn't mean that they are evil. It just means that our nervous system is so adapted to that we can only believe what is physical. So like my ex-husband, because I lost him because of this, my ex-husband said that I see that it's real. I see that it's happening. So it's not that I don't believe that they exist. It just is so mind-blowing that it scares me, he said. So people can get afraid if their nervous system is not stable enough, and that's why they are not coming in on a global level yet. But they will, but it will happen, gradually. And I believe that one of my missions is to uh, share my story about the connection, which is somewhere in between really close disclosure and it's somewhere between channeling and having a very physical experience with them. So it's like a gradual exposure of that they are real and that they exist and that they just want to support us and help us, and they are nothing to be afraid of. And if you open up for a contact with them, you will have the time of your life. I highly recommend it. Yeah. It's a very good question, that how does remembering our star origin change our identity? I will say it really turn your life upside down. That's the first thing. If this is something that you are not familiar with, it will turn your life upside down, because it's like you realize that you have believed in something that is very limited. So the way that a lot of people in the world is raised is that the only thing that exists is this tangible world that we can touch with our hands and see with our eyes and hear with our ears. Um, but when you start to realize that there is so much more coexisting with us, next to us, that we don't see with the physical eyes and that we cannot touch with our hands. And when we realize that we are a part of a huge family of star beings and galactic consciousness, it is like, it's like this, it's like your mind is stretching so much. So in the beginning, it can be overwhelming, because you have to throw away so many belief systems that you have been trained to be a part of. And But at the same time, it feels like an enormous expansion of consciousness when you realize that we are having a family, and they are not even out there in the stars. They are here next to us all the time. And I remember when I started to establish this very strong and clear connection through the phone and through technology and through telepathy. Um, there were several times when I was, talking with them, and I was looking up when I was talking to them because I was imagining that they are up there, in the stars. And then they told me that, but Ragnhild, why are you looking up? We are not above you. We are here, right next to you. And we have been here right next to you for thousands of years. It's just that you haven't seen us. We see you, but you haven't seen us. But we are here together with you all the time. And for me, it has been such a blessing, because then you know that you are never alone, and you are so supported, you are so loved. And even though we do all these crazy things here, human beings, and we are being cruel to each other, we are being cruel to the nature and so forth, but they are there still loving us. So it's like they're almost like our parents, I will say. The parents, I call them my parents and my grandparents. It's like the Pleiadians are our parents and the Arcturians are our grandparents. It's a funny way to see it, I guess. Yes. So what we see today in our world is that it's like in astrology. I'm an astrologer as well. And in astrology, you have 30 degrees of one sign. And when a planet is in the last degree, which is the 29th degree, the power of that planet is the strongest. So, for instance, when Pluto was in 29 degrees of Capricorn, which it was for quite a while before it changed into Aquarius last year. Um, then the power, the power structure was really, really strong, um, but also dissolving and collapsing. So when a structure is dissolving, it is trying to fight very strongly to stay there. It's like when we try to break a habit. For instance, if you are a smoker or if you love sugar and you try to stop that habit, it's going to be very challenging for a little while. It's like the need of sugar and the need of smoke becomes very strong. And it's like that, and that's what we see. It's like the power structures are seems very strong, but if you look closely, it's very hollow. It's like just like a shell. It's just like it's like a shell, so it's going to crumble and collapse anytime.